Welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about misunderstood small business statistics. And why is this important? For all of you running a business, where do you stack up, against your peers, against the rest of small business in America? And we hear a lot of statistics. What I've put together are 7 super interesting charts, figures, and just statistics that you're going to find really interesting. And specifically these 7, how they're sort of misunderstood, and the context is actually, in some of them, totally off base. But this is what the media believes. I always say, like, you as the CEO, the small business owner, you're kind of on an island. If you're new to this channel, my name is Luke Peters. I built my company NewAir starting in 2000 for about 20 years, all the way up to, almost 9 figures in annual sales, and then exited with a mid 8-figure exit. It was a wonderful conclusion to building that business. I learned so much along the way, made every mistake in the book, but also learned through every one of those mistakes. And my aim now is to help business owners and CEOs like you achieve success through CEO coaching. The perspective of everybody else is totally different towards your business than it is for you, right? So anyways, let's dive into it. The first chart, just really quick, I just want to give chart number 1 here. Figure number 1 is the small business statistic article written by Forbes, and that's where I gathered some of these stats. So we'll just put that up really quick and take it down. And now let's go to figure number 2. So small businesses by employee size. And this is right here in 2024. The biggest thing that stands out here is that most small businesses have 1 employee, okay? So, literally about 85% of small businesses have literally 1 employee. And if you are one of the small businesses with 20 or more employees, you're literally a unicorn. You got to be patting yourself on the back because you're 2.4% of all businesses. And then probably, as I'll get to later in this episode, if you're like over 50, you're probably into the 0.5% of small businesses. So the things that stand out, in this figure number 2 is most small businesses have 1 employee. So there's a lot of solopreneurs, of course, professionals, but what's not discussed here is the gig economy. So you have a lot of these businesses are not really businesses, they're jobs, they're contractors. It's part of the gig economy, yet it's being reported as a business. Why? I'll get to that later on. Okay, so I think that one's a little bit deceiving. So now let's go to figure number 2, jobs added basically in the last 25 years. So about 13 million jobs added from small business in the last 25 years. I mean, that's incredible. But you got to go a couple levels deeper. How many of those are solopreneur jobs? It's political pandering without support for small businesses. But just the sheer number of 13 million jobs in 25 years. And I'm going to get into the demographics, actually. We'll look at the spread on ages, millennials, Gen X, how those stack up, and then year by year job gains. Okay, and why is this important for your business? Just kind of understand where you are. Sometimes you need a pat on the back, right? You're having a hard time and you're making it through, and maybe you got 10 or 50 or 100 employees, in the upper echelon, really is what this data kind of points out. Okay, so figure number 4, this is the number of Americans employed every year. And what's interesting in this one, this is just jobs employed every year. But then I also went back, and what you don't see online, as I went back and I have the number of Americans each one of those years, okay? And the population grew by just under 6% during this period, and the jobs grew by 7%. So that is pretty good information, because a lot of times we hear, about the demographic changes and the baby boomers retiring, and I think the labor participation in America has gone down. So somehow percent of those working, though, has gone up. So maybe we need to fact check this one, but it is in and of itself, a good looking statistic. But now we go to the next chart. Okay, so chart number 5. I thought this was super interesting. Okay, so just look at Gen X versus millennials here. So millennials born from 1981 to 96, Gen X born from 1965 to 1980. So I'm Gen X, I'm born in 73. There are 73 million millennials, and there's 65 million Gen X. Okay, so that's not on the chart, but those are the raw numbers. So there's more millennials. They are at the age where they should be starting business, 28 and older, yet they account for only 13% of business, and Gen X is 47. So really, like, kind of sad number almost, right? Because we want, America, I tell everybody, America, it was made to start a business. All the tax laws are in your favor when you start a business. The asset laws, the legal structure, like it is made for business. That's what this country's made for. That's why if you have kids, you should be instructing them to look into entrepreneurship and reasons that are not honestly discussed anywhere. It's mainly just about, you can make more money as an entrepreneur, but it's literally like the legal structure and the tax structure and everything else about this is made to help you succeed in business. Yet millennials are accounting for a tiny share now. So that is concerning. And, some might argue, okay, they're younger, but really at 23, I mean, that's kind of like, that's after a job or two or three, and you're into your career, and then hopefully, you can start something at that age. So definitely a concerning one. And if you are a millennial with a successful business, well, hey, just pat yourself on the back. You're doing great. Okay, chart number 6 right here. So this is small business failure. Now you're going to, this one's, the source is Fundera. So there's different sources in this article. This one rates the failure rate at 50% by year 5. Just thinking about legal structures and how people put businesses together. They may start a business, they may incorporate or start as an LLC, or they may not incorporate, right? If they're just a solopreneur and they have no assets, or maybe they don't want to deal with setting up another entity, they may not. And so I wonder how the failures are actually reported, I guess is what I'm getting at. My guess is by year 5 of businesses, real businesses, that aim to have growth and employees, my guess is it's a lot higher than 50%. But as we saw in the previous charts, this data is mixed, okay? So when you hear the news, you're hearing all of the solopreneurs, the gig economy, everything is just mashed, kind of all into that one bucket, which really isn't that helpful. So it's good for you to kind of understand, I think, how the sausage is made here. It's when you can interpret these results. I thought this next figure, number 7, was super interesting, okay? So basically, this kind of shows misunderstanding of the writers here. So I'll leave this up here so you can just read this paragraph. Okay, this is a perfect example of maybe a journalist who doesn't understand business writing this, kind of saying that, wow, small businesses are doing so good because only 1% of their revenue goes towards marketing. It's a complete misunderstanding. If the businesses were healthy, they'd be spending 10% towards marketing. I just saw something that Red Bull spends 30% towards marketing, 30%. Think about that. They're crushing it because they're everywhere and they're able to tell an amazing story. So a statistic that says small business spends 1% on advertising doesn't mean small business is healthy. It means small business doesn't have enough margins, advertise and thus allow their company to scale. So again, I think it's just a kind of a junior mistake here of misunderstanding and not really understanding the true interpretation of this data. And again, you got to peel these things back and think on the second and third level terms here. So the last one here that I also thought was the misunderstood statistic is the average small business owner salary. Okay, so this is figure number 8. So what this one's talking about is it's showing, wow, small business owners only make on average $67,000, but this is W-2 salary. So look, you all know if you have a successful business that first of all, you might be dividend. Some of your income might be on dividends. Some of it might be on W-2. You're a pass-through, right? So at the end, you need to pay yourself, according to the IRS, what you should for your job title, but then the rest of the income might come through on a dividend. And a lot of it may not come through at all, right? Because you're growing your inventory or something like that, and you're paying taxes on it, but you're not receiving it. That's a whole nother discussion. But again, a total misunderstanding of how small business works, how business owners plan. Probably a worthless statistic, but I thought it was good for this discussion. I think it's good to see these things because when these are portrayed in the news media and there's articles about small business, most people don't have a clue what they're writing about. They don't have the context or the understanding or the experience, and they're just writing based on some charts or graphs or something that they received. Sometimes we're kind of, questioning these, but, we know kind of what it takes to run a business. You as the CEO, you understand that end of it. I think, oftentimes you get the short end of the stick. Okay, so that's why a lot of these are out here because I guess, the final conclusion. So I just kind of wanted to tie all this together, and that is that the stats don't always tell the truth. I think a lot of these numbers are used for political pandering. Wow, we grew small businesses grown over, our administration by this many jobs. And that's just taking these numbers as a whole and mashing in all the solopreneurs and gig economy into it and not really pulling it apart and understanding what the numbers actually mean, which we'll do in a later video. But it's important that I think more people understand that, so we're not so easily swayed by, the next new hot article that comes out. So anyways, listen, I thought this was interesting. I just wanted to run through these quickly. Thanks for listening. And if you're looking for a free 20-minute strategy session with me, just take a look down in the description below, click the link, go to apexceo.co, and we're only giving 10 of these strategy sessions a month. And hopefully in those 20 minutes, I can give you a little bit of an idea of how I think, maybe solve one or two of your problems and see if there's other ways that I can help you out. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.